In the midst of social distancing and business lockdowns, a freelance writer and a graphic artist bought a bus, converted it into a tiny home on wheels, and moved out of our 4-bedroom house. 1 year later, we downsized to a Chevy Express. Now we travel between Texas and Pennsylvania from April through November while exploring small towns with rich histories. In the winter, we hunker down in Texas in our schoolie and dream of our next big trip.
We're Alan and Teresa.
And we're rolling with our nomies.
Alright. So, this is the visitor center. It's an old historic train station on East Main here in Front Royal. And it serviced the town in the mid-1850s. But after it was destroyed during the Civil War, they resumed service again in the 1870s, and the station was built sometime before 1885. By World War I, 6-passenger trains were arriving through this depot daily, every day. Then when the automobile came along, it kind of put an end to the railroad service. The automobile caused service to decline, and passengers served ended up in 1946, and then freight service ended in 1954, and I guess sometime after that they turned this into the visitor center.
Right. Warren County Visitor Center.
Now there's also a sundial right over here. They call it the Millennium Sundial. So the Millennium Sundial, which is next to the train station, maybe over there or over here.
Oh, we had this problem last time we looked.
Alright, so it says next to the train station, but it was dedicated December 31st, 1999. So this is a gazebo here in the center of town, or at the town square. And I don't think the sundial is over here. I think it's over there beside the train station. So we're going to walk over there.
Oh, man, I'm going to have a lot to edit out on this one.
I don't remember exactly where it was, but the walking tour says it's beside
it's right there.
The train station. So, yeah, there it is. There it is.
Yeah.
Yep. So we can see sundial. It commemorates the transition from the 20th century to the 21st century. It was conceived, designed, and executed by Patricia Windrow and Bill and Eva Devlin, made possible by contributions from the community. There's a little plaque there, right there in the front of it, and so, yeah, pretty cool. This actually is a real sundial. So you see it's got the north orientation right there. Then it's got the times, like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 around. So it is, well, according to the shadow over there, it says it's about 3:30, but it's actually 4:30.
Right, because of daylight savings time.
Ah, that's it, yeah. So because of daylight savings time, it's not going to be 100% accurate.
Sundials don't know about daylight savings time.
That's correct. So that's actually the real time, and the daylight savings time is our man-made fakery in action. So there's your commentary. And then we talked about the caboose, which is right next to the sundial, and there's not a whole lot to say about it, other than it was given to the town in 1989 by Norfolk and Southern Railway Company, and it sits on the original tracks, and so if you look up under it you can see the tracks.
Yeah.
And then the Village Commons, which is where we just came from, over there by the gazebo.
There's a really cool van sitting right out here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Whose van is that?
It looks pretty cool.
So they've got these little tables with chessboards on them, right here in the town square park. And, you know, the gazebo's over there. Really is a beautiful park. So next up, we're going to head over onto Chester Street.
Okay.
Now this is the Mullen Trout House. Thomas Mullen built this home between 1806 and 1815 and then willed it to his wife. The Reverend David Trout was a Methodist circuit rider, and he bought it in 1853. Two of his three maiden daughters, all prominent to the Methodist Church and public education, remained living here through the First World War. Catherine Brucey Trout was one of them, and she was a widely published poet, wrote the dedicatory poem for the 1899 unveiling of the Mosby Monument in Prospect Hill Cemetery, which we'll see a little bit later on, I believe. So this house has some historic significance. Next up, 15 Chester, which is right here.
Yeah.
So this house was built by Dr. Manly Littleton Garrison. He raised a wood-framed house to make way for this new brick home completed in the fall of 1882. He was a very well-loved doctor here, moved to Front Royal soon after the Civil War and practiced family medicine for 50 years in a small building which stood in the yard to the left of the house. During the Civil War, Dr. Garrison served as a field and hospital physician in the Confederate Army. Across the street. Alright, this house was constructed in 1936 by Amos B. and Ola Duncan Scott. It replaced what was known as the old Jackson home. A mortician, Mr. Scott, operated a funeral home, first on Main Street and later on the Gideon Jones house at 106 Chester Street, which we'll see a little later as well.
That's Courthouse.
Alright, so this house was built by Lucy and Luther Board after they left their Warren County home in Aspen Hill and moved to Front Royal at the time when their first of 4 children were ready to attend high school. They purchased the lot from the Jackson family and built a 2-story frame home right here on this lot. Come on. In 1900. Mr. Board was a successful farmer and stock dealer, and he continued to farm his Aspen Hill property even after he purchased this town. Now it is a saloon, looks like.
It's a beer museum.
A beer museum. Oh, it was a saloon at one time, and now... Alright, the Samuels apartment was built by Henry Trout, who was one of the founding fathers of Front Royal, and he built and resided in this home until 1817. He was a well-known wheelwright. Actually, his whole family were. And the Trouts made the wagons that transported many Valley families west before the Civil War. Dr. Anderton Brown, a beloved physician of Front Royal, owned and occupied the house until his death in 1869. Wounded Confederates were treated in his office right here, and a sword was found under the floor during the recent renovation. Doesn't say what year that was, but looks like probably late 20th century, early 21st. Dr. Bernard Samuels converted the house to apartments in the mid-1920s.
It was heated with a coal furnace.
Yeah, because of the chimney?
Nope.
How do you know that? Oh, I see that. Yeah.
See the coal chute
Yeah,
right there?
I sure do.
A little black door? That's a coal chute.
Yeah. Williams Chapel is the only surviving antebellum church in Front Royal. During the first year of the Civil War, it served as the county seat, replacing the Main Street Courthouse that was turned into a hospital. When the congregation built a new church on Royal Avenue, the building was sold to the school district and used for public meetings. In the summer of 1888, Confederate spy Belle Boyd gave one of her famous dramatic recitals here, detailing her Civil War exploits on land and sea during these 4 years of blood and devastation. In 1899, the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church bought the building and named it Williams Chapel after its minister, and it continues to be used today. Chester House was formerly a bed and breakfast. Now it's an attorney's office, and it was built by Charles Samuels on the site of Abraham Boone's home. 46 Chester. Wood Cottage. Mary Fristow was a genteel and accomplished indentured African-American servant. Purchased this lot on the corner of Chester and Peyton Streets in 1908 with money inherited from her guardian and employer, Ms. Milton T. Fristow. She rented the house on the corner and built a smaller one for herself, occupying it 3 years before her death. Mary Fristow is buried in Prospect Hill Cemetery in Fristow Lot. Mary Fristow, faithful servant of Mr. and Mrs. M.T. Fristow, died November 7, 1911, age 55, not dead, but sleeping at rest. That is what it says. Built around 1787, named for the William Balthas family, who lived here from 1838 to 1908. It's the oldest surviving house in Front Royal, skateboarders.
Gotta love them.
Right here in Front Royal, love it. In the 1840s, Balthas added the southern extension to the front and the brick wing to the rear. You can see the white brick over here on the right.
And I think you can see the line directly below the chimney.
Right below the chimney there.
Where the southern addition was added.
A blacksmith, Balthas had his shop where the Warren Rifles Confederate Museum stands today, which is another
right
site.
Next to it.
Yep, we'll see that here in a little bit. During the Civil War, his family helped hide Greenberry Samuels in the attic for almost a week to keep him from capture by a Union raiding party. According to Dr. Bernard Samuels, in the published memoir of his parents, A Civil War Marriage, that's the title of the book, A Civil War Marriage, a subsequent owner, Dr. Samuels, restored the Balthas House to its antebellum glory. In 2000, the Warren Heritage Society purchased the Balthas House, together with its spacious gardens and several dependencies in the rear.
And one of these days we're going to get here when that museum is open so I can go through there. But it ain't today.
Not today.
And it wasn't the last time I was here either.
The last time we arrived on a weekend.
We were here on a Sunday.
I think it was a Sunday. What's that say on the wall? Down there. Country home?
Country store?
Country store. Alright. So I don't know where is 64 Chester Street.
64?
That's the Blue House right
That's
there.
the Blue House.
Alright. So that's Cozy Corner.
Book House.
Forced to sell their ancestral home, Bel Air, the Buck family, built this Victorian home after the turn of the century. The most famous family member, Lucy Rebecca Buck, was one of the South's premier diarists. Her published journal, Sad Earth, Sweet Heaven, vividly recalls life in Front Royal during the Civil War. The house now sits on the site of an earlier Trout family wagon factory.
Okay.
And it looks like it was built, and it's a two-story brick building completed in 1959 on land donated by Dr. Bernard Samuels. It's the headquarters.
That way. Go that way.
The headquarters of the Warren Rifles Chapter, United Daughters of the Confederacy, and houses one of the finest collections of local Confederate memorabilia in the country. That collection also includes Stone Jackson's original cannon and the Union flag surrendered to Jackson's troops after the Battle of Front Royal. (101) Chester.
That's this one. It's the Ivy Lodge.
Behind the Ivy Lodge.
Let's go back this way.
101 Chester.
Well, that's 101 Chester, but what you want to talk about is behind it.
Alright, gotcha. Alright. The famed Confederate spy, Belle Boyd, lived in this house with her aunt and uncle early in the Civil War. In May 1982, the Warren Heritage Society moved the structure to this site from its original location behind 317 East Main Street. Bell's information on Union troop dispositions helped General Stonewall Jackson win the Battle of Front Royal. Bell's efforts also landed her in Washington's old Capitol prison. Visit Bell's cottage to learn more about her fascinating Civil War adventures.
I would love to. Can you get me here sometime when it's open?
I'll try my best, dearie.
Yeah.
Now this is Ivy Lodge, right in front of Belle Boyd's house. It houses the headquarters and museum of the Warren Heritage Society. Built by George Tyler in the 1850s, Dr. Bernard Samuels donated Ivy Lodge to the town of Front Royal for a public library a century later. The museum contains special exhibits and a collection of artifacts dealing with Warren County and Front Royal history. Jones House, an Italianate home built by Gideon Jones in 1870. Orphaned at an early age, Jones rose from an apprentice to militia captain, postmaster, ferry company chairman, wealthy owner of a general store, and mainstay of the Methodist Church. He was a Sunday school superintendent for 50 years. Front Royal old-timers remember this building as a funeral home run by Amos Scott. The lot and its original property belonged to John B. Petty, a noted Wainwright, whose wagon factory stood nearby. In 1870, Susan Peterson purchased the property and built this house. Sarah Martin purchased the property in 1914 and lived here until her death in 1945. Her heirs sold the house to the Lester Wood family. So now we're looking at the Donover Apartments. Built around 1845, it was known as the Hospital Center of Social and Religious Life during the ownership of the Glasscock family from 1858 to 1878. The tenants declared the house haunted by the ghost of Mrs. Glasscock, who could be heard at night rattling dishes and rummaging around in search of her false teeth. Where'd they go?
That's
house
this
right here.
one.
Love is spoken here. That's what it says. This late 19th century Center Hall colonial home was originally built on land owned by H. Welton Beatty, a prominent owner of several businesses in Front Royal. 3 generations of Beatty's lived here, the last being Ruth Beatty Gask, whose husband, Q.D. Gask was a Warren County High School principal and later superintendent of schools.
Go home.
The things she says. Now this home was moved to this spot in 1910 by Welton Beatty to make room for the new Methodist church on the corner of Main Street and Royal Avenue. It was once owned by Wright Gatewood, a state legislator and Warren County pioneer. It later became the birthplace of Ira Beatty, an educator and school administrator. His famous children, Warren Beatty and Shirley McLean, often spent their summers in this neighborhood. Well, ain't that something? This big mansion was built for Virginia State Senator Aubrey Weaver, the attorney who secured the first divorce for Wallace Simpson, the Baltimore woman for whom Edward VIII gave up the throne of England in 1938. Well, check that out. The Brits got history in Front Royal, too.
Yep.
So this Baptist church was built in 1912. It was the first Baptist congregation celebrating its 175th anniversary as a community of worship in 2015. And that makes it one of the oldest Front Royal Christian congregations. Look at this structure. There's a former Front Royal Town Hall, built around 1935 by the Civilian Conservation Corps. The cupola, pediment, and stone facing probably inspired the design used for the courthouse. The Front Royal Volunteer Fire Department once occupied the right side of the building, where the town council chambers were once located. Look closely and you can see where the fire trucks once exited the building.
Yep.
Yeah, they did a nice job of reconstructing that.
They did.
Courthouse.
And it will rival any of them in Texas.
Yeah.
It's absolutely gorgeous.
It's a beautiful courthouse. And it was built on the same site as the first constructed courthouse, which was built in 1836, the year Warren County was formed. This courthouse was built in 1936 as a WPA project. The stone additions in the rear, completed only in 2000, are harmonious with the rest of the building. On the lawn to the right is the Confederate monument built to honor Warren County's Confederate soldiers. To the left are monuments honoring soldiers who fought in World Wars I and II, Korea, and Vietnam. And then 105, right next door, there's a historical marker right beside that building. It says, "The capture of Front Royal. Stonewall Jackson, moving against banks, captured this town from a Union force under Colonel Kinley, May 23rd, 1862. And, alright, so this building here, turn of the century solid masonry, sold by the Methodist Church in late 1890. Shows up in the records as a law office in 1905. It was completed with a potbelly stove. The intricate exterior reflects building styles of the period. The open space interior, completely renovated in 2005, features vaulted ceilings. The building has served as law offices, a bank, restaurant, gift shop, tattoo and beauty parlor, and an art studio. And cinemas. And this one is called Royal Cinemas?
Royal Park Cinemas.
Royal Park Cinemas, okay. It was built sometime around 1930. The walk-in tour says around 1920, but it's a 997-seat theater hosting the world premiere of Bing Crosby's Riding High on April 1st in 1950. So good old Bing Crosby came here and put on a show.
No.
Well, he didn't come here, but the movie.
His movie came here.
The movie came here. Maybe he came. Okay, so this is 131 East Main. That's 131A. and 131B, I think, is the next door over. But this building was owned by Colonel Robinson Barr Murphy, who brought vaudeville and later silent movies to the theater's stage. In 1862, this is called Murphy Theater, so this building was also a theater, just a couple of doors down from the other one. In 1862, when just 13, Colonel Murphy enlisted as a musician. Later, as a general's aide, he voluntarily led 2 regiments as reinforcements into the line of battle where his horse was shot out from under him. At 15, he earned the Congressional Medal of Honor, and he's the youngest winner of that award. And so he came here and opened up a vaudeville theater. Alright, so right across the street here is the Trout building. It's on the corner here of Church and Main. It's a Queen Anne style building constructed in 1900 by Isaac Trout. Turner and Trout Pharmacy opened for business here in 1912 and operated for 82 years. The tall second-story windows were later installed to accommodate a photographer's studio. That's pretty neat. And then right next to that is 205, I'm guessing.
205 is
Weaver's Department Store. 205. New York City architect John Sloan was commissioned by Will Weaver, third-generation owner of the Weaver Department Store, during the early 1900s, to build this facility to house the ever-growing business which occupied the current location of an antique store at East Main and Cloud. The new location adjoined a tiny embrasure to its south, containing a newspaper stand. A family member of the newsstand owner tells the story that a woman ran out of the newsstand and into Weaver's. A man in hot pursuit shot her as she ran up the stairs of the department store. In 1978, Weaver's was purchased by Peebles and moved to the Royal Plaza Shopping Center. The grand old building went up for public sale. Hubert Amos's hardware store supplied the many small farmers surrounding Front Royal with a whole range of products, from cattle and poultry feed to farming implements and everyday tools and paints. The turn of the century, the Front Royal Post Office operated in part of the building, along with a drugstore and Ramsey's Hardware. Cloud Street was once the driveway to the Amos Stables, located to the rear of this building on High Street. So this whole building, I would say probably from where the red roof ends, all the way over to the corner, was the hardware store and the post office. Now this cute little building was the location of the Bank of Warren, established in 1872 by Isaac Newton King. It was the second bank in Warren County. The first, the Bank of Manassas, did not survive the Civil War. Now it's a law office. Please. But I do like that mural on the side of that building across the street from the mill. It's got a little bird chirping on a tree.
If you get too close, I can't get the whole building.
Across the street.
No, I got it right here.
Alright, so this is the Proctor Biggs Feed Mill, and that's why it has the name The Mill now as a restaurant. The most successful of the 3 mills that operated in Front Royal near the Southern Depot train station. According to newspaper reports, by 1921, Proctor Biggs' output was 150 barrels a day. This mill survived 6 major fires, and in 1981, Mr. William M. Billy Biggs said it's a sturdy old building. The 12 by 12 chestnut beams are still there. We just rebuild the rafters in each time. And running down along the next 3 or 4 buildings here, I think that's all the white ones here. The location of Lane's Tavern, though uncertain, is believed to have been at the site of the current Front Royal Laundry Center, which is right here at 505. Cook's Lane was at the site of the adjacent Victorian house.
Over here?
Yeah, right over there. This is 509 or 511. Catherine Lane, widowed in 1836, with 3 daughters and a need for income, rented rooms in her home, operated a dining room, and converted part of her home into a tavern. The meeting was established. The government of Warren County, after it was established from Frederick and Shenandoah counties in 1836, was held in Lane's Tavern. Catherine's daughter, Elizabeth, married Giles Cook Sr. and lived next door. Cook was a lawyer and judge whose son followed in his footsteps. Both men were prominent local citizens. Cook Jr. was a Civil War soldier. The American Legion post on 8th Street bears his name, and there are the skateboarders again. Another prominent occupant of Cook's Lane was C.A. McAtee Sr. He was a multi-talented man. He was an architect who designed and built the Episcopal, Presbyterian, and Roman Catholic churches in town. He was also a merchant, a Civil War soldier, clerk of the county court, and one of the 5 incorporators for the Royal Water Company in 1898. There you have it, folks. That ends the walking tour.
Alright, if I don't do this right, then I'm going to be on the bad side of my wife. So y'all bear with me and pray for me. But while you're doing that, don't forget, share us with your friends. Like us if you like us if you don't. Subscribe to the channel. It helps us out. God bless.